Hi, Amber.
Hello, Bill. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, hold on a second. I'm just going to turn this up a bit. That's better. All right. I'm just going to record this. Okay, looks like it's already started. I think we'll get started now. It's 7:30. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're really excited to have you guys here for session 2 for the Salesforce for Newbies. Thank you so much to everyone who came to our session on Tuesday. We covered a whole heap of ground, from what is Salesforce to how did Salesforce start, how did it grow into what it is today, what are the products and the services that they provide, what is a platform versus software, verticals. We talked about different industries, about the different roles and the jobs available in Salesforce. We talked about the different companies that use Salesforce. Gosh, that was quite a lot. The pay and the salary of different Salesforce careers, some career paths. What is a certified technical architect and how could you get there? And we also introduced our brand new course, which is 0 to 100. So speaking of that course, thank you to everyone who's already signed up. We've loved the number of signups that are coming in. And for everyone who has signed up, we'll be reaching out to you over the next few days to arrange a virtual kind of one-on-one with one of the teams. So keep a lookout in your inbox for that. Remember that it is first in, first served. So make sure you do get in quickly if you're interested in a place, because they're filling up fast. All right. On the call today, we also have Bill, who is our very special VIP guest, and he'll be taking over after about 30 minutes, halfway through today's session. So hello, Bill. Thank you for coming. It's great to have you here. And we'll be hearing from Bill a little later on. All right. So today's session is on how to get admin certified. And this session topic was decided by the votes from our last session. So the top of the list was how to get admin certified, and the other choices will be coming up in next week's session. So keep an eye out for those. This is a great choice, wonderful topic, great topic. We'll start with what it means to be admin certified. What's the impact that this could have on your career? What sort of jobs can you go for, and what particular industries and whereabouts in the world? Next, we'll talk about the level of commitment that is needed to get admin certified. How much time will it take? How much effort? How much money? What sort of experience should you have if you're going for an admin certification? How difficult is it to prepare, to learn, to pass? Then we'll introduce what we call the 3 pillars of getting certified. These are 3 things that, when done correctly, will build you up to having the best chance of passing the admin certification exam. So we'll go through each of the pillars in detail, explaining what they are, why they're important, and ways to do them. We'll also be throwing in some alternative options for executing each pillar, as everyone has different ways and methods of learning and understanding. So there's a couple of preferences there based on how you learn. And after that, we'll round it off with some tips and tricks that we've noticed are useful for anyone going for the certification. And then I'll hand it over to Bill, who will take it from there. So we'll finish with some Q&A after that. There should be plenty of time for that. And I'm excited for today. I hope you guys are excited for today. I hope this proves to be valuable for you. So let's get into it. What does it mean to be admin certified? Well, first off, from a completely unbiased position, it means a great career decision. As we discussed in session 1, between 2019 and 2024, there will be 4.2 million new jobs created globally. And 37,500 of those will be right here in New Zealand. The estimate around that is that it's going to generate around $2.3 billion in new business revenue over the course of just 5 years, which is kind of insane when you think about it. So being out of a job is just not a worry. You're only going to become more in demand. What's more, you'll be entering into one of the fastest growing technology sectors in the world with fantastic pay, an average of a $95K US salary. The certification is also 100% global, which means that you can take it with you all over the world. And because you know that the demand for a Salesforce admin is only growing, you'll always be in demand wherever you go. In terms of industries that you can work in, that's 100% up to you. Do you want to work in the automotive industry, in the health industry, in music, agriculture, finance and banking, in tourism, whatever industry you want to work in, the certification can get you in that door. Now, being a Salesforce admin is not all rainbows and beaches and sunsets and roses. The job itself does require constant learning and upskilling. But if you're someone who enjoys learning and being able to solve problems, then this career is likely to fit you to a T. If you want to know what a day in the life of a Salesforce admin is like, then stay tuned for one of our next sessions because we'll be walking through a day in the life then. All right, so the commitment. So far, the job is sounding pretty good. But what is the commitment to actually get the certification? What do you have to do? How much effort is required? These are all really fantastic questions, which are absolutely worth considering before you go or commit to a certification, because the reality is that it's not easy. Most people do fail the administrator exam the first time, especially if you're coming into it with zero experience. On the Salesforce website, they recommend that you have up to 6 months of full-time work experience in Salesforce before you sit the exam. There are 100% different ways that we can speed that up, but the message is pretty clear. This exam is tricky. It's extremely detail-orientated, and it's designed to test your knowledge of a wide range of the Salesforce platform. From tiny details to large user access and privacy and sharing settings, there's a whole lot of stuff that's covered in this exam. The time commitment for studying for the exam is also not something to take lightly. Like any sort of study, it requires focus and determination. On average, once you've had some real-world experience with Salesforce, we would recommend really committing to study for a minimum of 3 weeks outside of your day job before taking the exam, but that's on top of a decent amount of real-world experience already. We're also assuming here that you're working 3 times, so we're not talking about 3 weeks worth of full-time study, we're just talking about study outside of those hours. The cost commitment is also something to be aware of. The cost for the certification exam itself is $200 US, and a Salesforce practice exam is $100. You can find practice exams from other sources, which also do a pretty good job, and we'll be covering those later on. The takeaway here is that studying by yourself for the admin cert is a lot of work. It takes dedication and time and investment of money and patience, but the results and the rewards are definitely well worth it. All right, a little bit about the exam. So how does the exam actually work? Well, the entire exam is 90 minutes long and consists of 60 multi-choice questions. To pass, you need just 65%, which is 39 out of the 60 questions correct. Now, I know what you're thinking. Multi-choice, only 65%. Yeah, this will be a breeze. It'll be fine. But that's actually not the case. Salesforce is quite sneaky with their multi-choice questions, and there are plenty that are not so easy. In fact, it's quite easy to fall into a false sense of security if you don't do a practice exam, for example, and think that you've got it all down packed. So just make sure that you're prepared. You can do the exam at home or at a testing center, which is usually found in a city. Doing it at home has become way more accessible since COVID because everyone's kind of gone virtual and online. But there's still some pretty strict rules that you need to follow, kind of classic exam things: no talking, no writing stuff down, no real looking around the room or anything, no devices, no smartwatches. Sometimes I've heard if you wear glasses, they might even ask you to take off your glasses and just show them to your supervisor, who is supervising your exam virtually, and just to prove that there are no notes or anything on your glasses, because often the reflection from the screen can make it seem like it. So they can be pretty strict at times. But the great thing about doing the exam virtually is that you can reschedule and cancel your exam with a lot more flexibility than if you were doing it through a physical testing center. So this is great if something urgent comes up, or if you just want to wait an extra week and try out some more stuff. It's a really nice way to do it. Yeah. All right, so the exam breakdown looks something like this. There's 12 topics to be aware of, and each one is weighted with a slightly different percentage. Obviously, since the pass mark is 65%, we really want to be focusing on the topics with high percentages, such as standard and custom objects, sales and marketing applications, and service and support applications, and what's another one? Security and access. So once you've got these down packed, it's good to give the other ones a bit more attention, starting at the higher percentages and then kind of working your way down. The smaller topics like app exchange or organizational setup may only have a couple of questions in the whole exam, so it's not worth as much of your time to be focused on those. As you can see from this list, there is plenty to cover here, so having a good strategy for studying and passing the exam is critical. Which brings us to the 3 pillars. All right, the 3 pillars of admin success. Epic title. So the 3 pillars of admin success are kind of 3 areas that we've noticed and recommended to people that have been in our training courses and come through our programs. So putting together these pillars is not vital, but it will give you substantially more kind of security and strength and just a bit of that oomph when you go and sit your Salesforce admin exam. Of course, there's plenty of other strategies and ways that you can approach the exam, but in general, these 3 pillars will give you a pretty rock solid foundation to get you through. You can think of each pillar kind of like the leg of a small circle table. 3 legs will give you a really solid base, something sturdy. You could put a hot cup of tea, a biscuit, whatever you like on that table, and it's going to be all right. 2 legs, and it's a little wobbly and unbalanced. You don't really want to put that full boiling cup of tea on there. And 1 leg is pretty useless, really. But on the other hand, if one of these pillars is just unbelievably strong, really, really solid, then perhaps you don't need the other 2. It's up to you to decide, but it's always good to have a few backups just in case. So what are these 3 pillars anyway? Let's have a look. All right, pillar number 1, real world experience. So the first pillar is based on project experience, real world experience. No amount of studying can really compare to how valuable it is to get hands-on experience. So being able to recall specific projects or implementations that you've done will help you to answer some of the tough scenario-based questions in the exam. The best way to get this hands-on experience is to block out time on your calendar and either make it clear to your team that this is a priority that you're working on, if you're working with Salesforce in your day job already. But if you're not, then you can always find a non-for-profit that is looking for some Salesforce admin help. That would be a great project to take part in. But if that's not really your vibe either, then another really fantastic way to kind of solidify your skills and build up that knowledge is to build an app yourself, maybe to track something that you're interested in. For example, you might build an app to track your favorite TV episodes, or an app to track your recipes or movies or whatever you like, really. If you're planning for a big event, you could build that up in Salesforce as well. I know that building an app might sound quite scary, like you need to know how to code, you need to know how to program. App building, it's got quite an intense kind of connotation with it, but that's just not the case with Salesforce. You can absolutely put together an app that's really useful and fun and provides a lot of value to you without very much experience or knowledge at all. So it's a really great project to try out when you're just getting started. It will give you the expertise of building an app from scratch, and you'll also have something to demo to potential employers or other people, or just to build on, which is really, really cool. So that's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is Trailhead or some equivalent study. So this is more geared towards learning more of the theory behind the practical. And it's a great way to fill in gaps in your knowledge that you might not have done through the real world experience. So Trailhead is a really fantastic resource to get you started. If you're going through your admin cert, then we'd recommend things like admin beginner and the admin intermediate trail. These trails are really fantastic for learning, for refreshers, to really upskill your knowledge of Salesforce. There's also the admin certification prep trail, which was specifically made to help you get exam ready by Salesforce. But it's always nice to complement those with a mixture of other things as well. So it works great alongside the admin certification trail mix, which actually shows you a percentage of each of the subject area that's covered in the test. And that way you can focus more time on the subject areas that have the highest percentages. Those ones that we talked about before, like standard and custom objects, sales and marketing applications, security and access, and then less time on areas with lower percentages, like the mobile, the app exchange, user setup. Now, Trailhead isn't always for everyone, so make sure that you check out some other options, such as activity workbooks, different courses. There's some great free quizzes online, and some really cool seminars as well. So whatever you find that works for you, even doing some more real world experience here would be a really fantastic way to substitute this if Trailhead isn't really for you. All right, our final pillar here, pillar number 3, is practice exams. So in my opinion, these are pretty much a must for any certification, whether it's Salesforce official practice exams or informal quizzes, or from entirely other platforms such as Focus on Force. They do some good ones, or Salesforce Ben as well, another very popular Salesforce blogger. Then practice exams are a really great way to check your knowledge and how prepared you are before jumping straight into the real thing. Especially if you're new to Salesforce and this is the first exam that you're taking, then the format of the questions in the exam are sometimes a little weird and oddly worded. The multiple choice answers will try to confuse you, and the questions might throw in a sentence or additional information that is completely irrelevant to the overall question. So a lot of it is really about taking your time and interpreting what the question is really asking you. For example, I've seen 4 multi-choice questions on the exam, that were all identical except for one word. So practice exams are a really great way for helping you understand if you're ready for the real thing, but also just to familiarize yourself with the question format, with the wording and the type of language that they use, and how the material that you've studied translates into a hypothetical scenario. So once you've had your fill of practice exams, combined with the several weeks or months of Trailhead study, plus some real world experience, you should be pretty prepared for that final exam. I think there is a fourth unmentioned pillar here, which is determination. You really have to have the drive and the desire personally to achieve this goal. So make sure that you're really dedicated to wanting this. It will be tough, as studying for any sort of hard thing is, but it is so worth it. That feeling when you finally get your certification and you know that from now on, there's really no limit to your career. It's just an incredible feeling. It's really, really something. All right, so some resources, which I'll send out in an email as well, that I think are really valuable if you're going for your Salesforce admin certification. First up is Trailhead and Trailhead Live. Do the trails, have a look at some super badges, which are more independent problem-solving versions of kind of the Trailhead challenges. And watch some videos. They've got some really fantastic tutorials and videos there as well. So much free, great content here. Some other great resources are some study buddies or study groups. You can probably find this at your local community group or even just online. There's so many people on the same path as you right now. So really see if you can find someone to go on this journey with, because it makes it not only a fun way to study, but it also holds you accountable. It's a great way to meet other people in the community and build connections and network for future jobs. It's pretty amazing how often you'll run into the same people within the Salesforce community space. So it's really fantastic to just get involved with that when you start as well. Focus on Force is a website and company that does study guides and practice exams. And I would say they're really worth the investment. They have a great range of questions, a good number of practice exams, and even some really comprehensive study guides as well. So Focus on Force is a great website to check out. There's a massive range of Salesforce flashcards, which are available on the website Quizlet, which we absolutely recommend. So Quizlet does digital flashcards that you can test yourself on, which is really useful because there are just some facts that you just need to know to do this. Things like, governor limits or certain numbers or facts about features and things like that. And just flashcards, I find, are a really great way for people to cement that information inside their brain. So have a look there. You don't need to do your own flashcards. They've already been made for you. Finally, there's just a huge source of Salesforce blogs out there with tips and tricks from hundreds of people who have struggled and succeeded in the exam already and are passing on their knowledge and what they know. So reading from other people's experiences and hearing what worked for them is a really great way to prepare yourself and then learn at the same time. Of course, the number one resource that we can recommend is our 0 to 100 course. It's this one here. So this was the one that we announced last session. And just as a recap, it's a 6-month course that takes you from knowing absolutely nothing about Salesforce to being a fully certified Salesforce system admin with a guaranteed job offer for you on completion of your course. It includes the certification cost and a practice exam cost. And you also get 4 weeks worth of real world Salesforce project experience to add to your CV and just your general knowledge bank. Now, the course is designed to be done part-time, and and you can complete the course 100% virtually from anywhere in the world at whatever time suits you. So if you're interested, then jump on our website, www.salesforcetraining.co.nz, and have a look there, because places are filling up fast. All right, so to round things off, before we hand over to Bill, which is very exciting, our top tips and tricks for becoming admin certified. The number one tip is don't get intimidated. Going for a Salesforce exam can seem scary, especially if you haven't taken any sort of assessment or exam since school, which is majority of people. But it's important to realize that you can do this. It is 100% possible. And with the right preparation, you can absolutely turn your entire career or life around. It's really easy to give up, but it's so much worth it for you to keep pushing. A little bit of extra work here and a little bit of extra study here will pay off massively down the road. So you've got this, you can do it. You've just got to start. Number two is to see the wider picture, not just in terms of what you're aiming for and what you're trying to achieve, but also with how Salesforce fits in a wider business setting. What is the purpose of what you're learning in a practical sense? How is it helpful? What is it that you're helping the business to do? These questions will keep you grounded and help you make some somewhat abstract concepts seem more easy to understand. Number three is to teach someone else. This is why we really recommend studying in a group or with friends, because it's a great way to learn. It not only puts you under pressure to actually understand the topic well enough to teach it, but having someone else to ask you questions forces you to dig deeper into your own knowledge and understanding. Plus, it's a great way to pass on what you've learned and potentially change someone else's life. Who knows? Number four is to just stick to your study guide and your topic. Because Salesforce is so enormous, it can be easy to get off track and begin to get sidetracked by other shiny features or products. And this can be very overwhelming if you start to feel like you have to learn it all. This is just simply not the case. Stay on track, stick to the basics of what you have to know. And then when you start to find stuff that you're studying boring, it's a good sign that you're ready to move on to a new topic. Number five is do the practice exams. We've already talked about this, so I'm not going to talk about it again too much, but please just do them. It's going to save you a whole lot of trouble. And finally, when you're in the actual exam, it's a really good strategy to work backwards when answering questions. So eliminate the answers that you know to be wrong. You can usually narrow it down to the final two, which can be pretty difficult to choose between, but then you can make your choice. You can always go back to questions at the end of the exam as well and review them before submitting it finally. All right, that's it from me for now. So we'll do some Q&A at the end if you have any questions about the Salesforce certification. But for now, I'll stop sharing my screen and let Bill introduce himself and share his story with us.
Thanks, Amber. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here to share some insights about Salesforce consultant. I can't share my screen. Host disabled. Sharing.
I'll see if I can share that for you. Oh, there we go.
It's fine.
It's all right. Try that. It should be good by now.
Okay, thanks. So, because we are talking about the certification, so I think I might just talk the same topic as well to give you some more additional tips. A little bit about myself. I have been in the ecosystem for roughly 2 years. Yeah, a little more than 2 years. I started my first job as a system admin, kind of in the May of 2019. And since then, I got my first certification in September. Since then, I started to just take exams prepare exams. Now I have 17 certifications, and I changed my job from the client side to the partner side. So I actually implement Salesforce projects for other organizations as my day job. So I've done quite a few exams, and I have a kind of formula to share with you. I think a lot of points Amber has already mentioned earlier, but I just make some emphasis about those points. So I usually do the 5-step process for each exam. The first thing is the exam guide. That's the gold rule for you to prepare the exam, because that's literally what Salesforce wants to check your knowledge about. They will list clearly what areas you need to know, what level of knowledge you need to know, and what areas you don't need to know as well. Also, they have detailed sections about the percentage. So you may focus on some area you may not know well, but has a very high percentage. You need especially pay attention to that kind of information. I think all the exams I have taken, they have a trail mix. Most of them are official ones. Some of them are community members made. The trail mix pretty much is a mix of all the Trailhead badges related to that particular topic. And sometimes it includes some links. Instead of just doing some badge, they give you some article or even documentation to read. Salesforce, I think, has done a great job of the documentation. So pretty much any feature, they have an implementation guide. I think years ago, people used to leverage that to learn, but now they have Trailhead, so make the learning easier, but sometimes you still need to go back to the documentation and read line by line. Sometimes there are some fine print you need to double check. That's a fun part to come from. Another thing is the blogs. It's literally search the name of that certification plus blog in Google, and pretty much every link on the first few pages, just open them and have a glance. You may say something interesting or boring, you make the judgment. And but most of them, if they can make to the first page of Google, it gets a lot of hits, and that means it's quite useful and helpful. So spend some time, read them, because that's one particular thing I like in Salesforce community. People love sharing. So if they learn something, they don't hide it. They don't treat it as a secret. They just share with other people. So you don't need to go to the same trap again to avoid the unnecessary mistakes. Quizlet, yes. Quizlet is great. You don't need to make your own flashcards. Plenty of people already made them for you. Just grab them and look. About Quizlet, there are some not so good things on that. You actually can find plenty of, maybe they call exam dumps, something like that. So pretty much people put the questions in the real exam there. It's not the right thing, but you may see some flashcards of that style. And I personally have found some real questions on those Quizlet files. But the questions are real. The answers may not be. So they listed all the options as the real questions, but the answer in that flashcards a lot of times is not right. So even it's a real question, you can't really prepare your exam by memorizing whatever the answer they listed, because it's a high chance the listed answers are wrong. So if you do that way, first, you don't learn anything. Second, you may not pass at all because you remember the right answer. So it's your personal judgment to check if it's right or not. But personally, I don't think preparing exams by memorizing some dumb questions is a good way. It's the wrong way, because the questions is to check your real knowledge. Even you passed an exam in that way, an experienced employer can tell by asking you a few real life questions. So if you only prepare the exam by memorizing whatever the questions you found on the internet, then you will be you will be identified by a wise employer, and definitely in your work, because the memorizing questions can't help you with real life work. One last thing in my process of the exams is the review. So when you finish your exam, Salesforce actually sends you an email with detailed percentage of each section, how many answers. They don't tell you exactly how many questions you get correct, but they give you a percentage. So with that exam guide, you can actually reverse how many questions you get right or wrong. So that's a very important part, because the whole point of preparing exam is to learn something. It's a good motivation because you spend quite a lot of money to sit the exam. So make it worse. Just review those questions, or at least those sections you are not good at, and even you pass the exam, still read some materials related to your weak points, because that's the whole point. It's not about that cert itself, it's about the knowledge and skills you can leverage in your real life work. I actually am preparing another exam recently, so I can show you my this process.
When did you pass your last exam, Bill? How long ago was that?
A few weeks ago. Yeah, I just can't stop. So I'll show you through all this process. This is the exam guide. So the first part is just the general description, but from this part, the audience part is actually getting useful, because it will tell you what's the ideal candidate for this exam. They usually give you some how long experience you need to have. This is just a guideline. It's not necessarily a hard limit. I took a lot of exams without enough time of experience. And the next section is tell you the knowledge they want to check. These two sections are just the standards part. This exam outline is the most important part in this exam guide. So they have different topics and each topic has a percentage. That's how you actually reverse your final result back to see how many questions you get right and wrong. And each topic, they have some bullet points. What I usually do is I read word by word and I check if I actually understand everything they listed out here. If I don't, just Google it. Because Salesforce is so good at documentation, so you can actually find all the documentation related to these topics very easily, and just read through them maybe several times, because a lot of things may not make sense at all when you first time read them. Even several times it may not make sense still, but it takes time, and you don't necessarily read it every day. You can take a break, just let the things calm down in your mind. And there are plenty of videos on YouTube, free videos, for pretty much all the topics of Salesforce. So watch some videos as well, because people may interpret the same topic in different ways. So maybe one or two people have the similar understanding or learning style with yourself. So you may find that's very helpful. Yeah, that's the exam guide part. And here is a trail mix. So for those advanced level certifications, they actually put a lot of links because the Trailhead badges are not enough, I guess. So all these links, some pointing to YouTube video of Salesforce itself, the developer channel or admin channel. Some are actually implementation guide, which are real long documentation. And some are blog articles from Salesforce official blogs. So this is the thing you need to go through. You don't necessarily complete the whole thing to pass the exam, but to actually, as I said, it's not about the exam, it's the cert itself, it's about the knowledge and skill. So I usually complete the whole thing. Even I didn't do that before I set the exam, I will finish it later. The third one is Google Blogs. As you can see, all the links I have clicked. So yeah, just open them and have a look. The date is actually matters as well, because Salesforce, I think they reviews the exam guide every year at least. So the section, the topics and the percentage may change. So if you should prioritize those articles most recent, because some old ones may not be so useful anymore. Another reason is Salesforce does 3 releases every year. So some old good practices may not be good practice anymore. And there are new features to leverage. So you can, a lot of things you had to do with code, nowadays you can do that with a declarative tool like flows. And Quizlet, yeah. So I usually prefer those traditional flashcards. So it's a question and some knowledge points behind that. But as I said, some people just put those real questions on it, but don't trust the answers. That's my advice. even you find some of them, you can use that. There's no way to prevent you, but you need to be wise about the answers because a lot of them are wrong. About the result, I can show you my my result. This is my first exam, the administrator. So the first column is a percentage from the exam guide, and times 60, you get the number of questions. And this column is from my exam result. So this percentage times this question number, you get how many you got correct, and this minus the correct one is the number you got wrong. So you can actually know which area you know better, or you should spend more time on that. And I think there is one more slide I want to show. That's a fancy certification pass. Currently, I think Salesforce have more than 30 certifications. So that's a kind of roadmap you can go through. It's from Salesforce Ben. It's a great website for all kinds of Salesforce related information. They have plenty of bloggers just post best practice, new features, tips for exams, etc. Literally everything. Review of those apps on App Exchange. So it's a great place, and you can actually spend a lot of time reading those articles, just absorbing the knowledge. That's it. That's all the content I want to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill. You're such an inspiration. You're just
You're welcome.
A certification kind of machine. It's just really, really impressive. And thank you for sharing how you get kind of your method of studying for these certifications. You've definitely proven that it works. So yeah, it's really cool. It was really great to hear your process and how it works. So now we're going to open up the floor pretty much to anyone who has a question. If you have a question about getting certified, about studying in Salesforce, I really can't think of a better person to ask than Bill. He's been around since I started in Salesforce, and he's just been so fantastic and inspirational. So yeah, if you have a question, chuck it in the Q&A or raise your hand, and I can unmute you since there's a nice small group, which is really fantastic. But yeah, we'll open it up. I guess I've got a question to start it off, Bill. What are you aiming for? What's the end goal here? Is it to get all of the certifications in Salesforce, or what are you aiming for?
Probably the architect one. Now it's not just one, there are quite a few. They just released a new B2B solution architect a few weeks ago. So yeah, I just want to get those architect certifications, including the fancy CTA.
Yeah. How do you feel about the CTA review board? Have you done much looking into that?
No, you actually need to complete 7 certifications before you can actually meet the criteria to be to enroll that exam.
Yeah.
So it's not just money, it's there are some pre-requirements to meet. I'm still on that path. But the review board I think it's quite interesting. I watched a lot of videos talking about that and read a lot of articles as well. So it's a real person interaction, and it's not just about the knowledge itself. You actually need the full package. You need present your solution in an efficient way. You can deal with those judges as business stakeholders in your real life, to explain why you designed this way and how would you actually implement it. Because in Salesforce, there is a very fun thing called governor limit. So you always have a limit, no matter how much you pay. Even you pay the most expensive license, you still have the limit. That's why it's quite interesting to design some solutions, especially it needs to be scalable. So you can handle 100 records, but 10,000 as well, maybe a million. That's the whole point. So I think that's quite attractive to me. It's just figuring out how to solve problems. It's challenging, but once you figure it out, it's a very happy experience.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have a favorite project that you think that you've worked on that you could share? Obviously, confidential projects remain confidential, but do you have a favorite project that really sticks out to you in your Salesforce journey so far?
I wouldn't say a favorite, but actually every project I have worked on, I learned something different. So they have different focus. So the recent one I'm working on is actually just keep changing. That's the whole agile thing. It's actually the requirements keeps changing. So it's not a pleasant way to implement a project because you designed the same based on the first version of the requirement and you deliver that. Then the client said, oh, we changed the man. So we need to change the solution as well. But that's actually a good thing, I think, of Salesforce because it's so flexible. So as long as you design the foundation part well, it's open to change. So you can not really easily, but not that hard either. So you can actually adapt those changing mind clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I prefer those declarative ways to implement whatever the requirements because it's easier to maintain. So if I write code, after a few maybe days, I just forgot why I wrote that way. But with Flow, it's visual, so it's easier to remember how I thought at that moment and how I can make changes. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think it looks like, oh, we do have, what is Rusty just said? Been there, done that when consulting with changing project requirements. That can also be good as provides the ability to work through multiple iterations for the best solution. Very true, Rusty.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I guess that's a more positive look. Yeah. All right. Did you have prior experience with ERP/CRM BI, etc. prior to getting into Salesforce? That's a question from Rusty for you.
For me, nope. Actually, I actually had nothing technical related background before I got into Salesforce. I studied Spanish in the university, and I did some physical infrastructure projects for years. So nothing IT related. I did a few months of like kind of service support, volunteer role before I got into Salesforce, because I just want to switch my career into the technology. But for some, I just got some luck. Got into this booming area. So yeah, but you don't actually need any technology knowledge before learning Salesforce. And that's what Salesforce keeps saying. Everyone can learn, can do. So yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Why not give it a go, huh? All right. Do we have any other questions from the audience for Bill? If not, I'd just ask one more. For a lot of our audience members who are just starting out in Salesforce, are perhaps a little worried about, jumping in or diving in, or they're just starting their Salesforce journey, what advice would you give them coming from your position now of 17 certifications and all of these projects and jobs?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned several times, it's not about the certs, and it's a journey. I think I heard a lot of CPAs, they said the same. Even they got the final kind of cert, they said it's not the end point, it's another starting point. So don't think you have yes, they are goals, but it's more like milestones. It's not a final goal. So you just have set some milestones and go to that direction little by little, step by step.
Oh, very cool. Thank you so much, Bill. You're such an inspiration and just a real treasure to the Salesforce community. You speak words of wisdom and truth.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much. So to all of the audience here, we'll be back again Tuesday next week, and we'll have Mark along there, who will also be sharing his experience and some of his knowledge. And so we'll see you on Tuesday next week. And thanks so much to Bill. If we were all in person, I'd probably, do a big round of applause here, but I'm sure we're all thinking it mentally. So thank you so much for your time, and to people in the audience as well. Thank you so much for coming along. It's been really fun. So yeah, see you guys next time.
See you. Bye.
Bye.